Vishvam
Durvivadyam
Ishvarai
Varahi Bhuye Vavivitsami
Yadedam Srijate Vishvam Ishvarai
Vavivitsvarahi
Sami
Sami
Yadedam Srijate Vishvam Ishvarai Sami
Sami
Srijate Vishvam
Vedam Sridhar Vishvam
Ishvarai
Vavivitsvarahi
Sami Jadam Srijate Vishvam Vishvam Navibhavyam Ajishvaram Navibhavyam Sami Yatendam Srijate Vishvam Srijate Vishvam Duribhavyam Marishwarai Ishwaram Vimai Sami Sami Yatendam Srijate Vishvam Yatendam Srijate Vishvam Duribhavyam Marishwarai Ishwaram Shvam, 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 Yatedam Srijate Vishvam Yatedam Srijate Vishvam Durvabhavyam Adishvarai Durvabhavyam Adishvarai
Bhuyaiva vivitsami.
Bhuyaiva vivitsami.
Bhagavan Atmamayaya.
Bhagavan Atmamaya.
Yatedam Shrujate Vishvam.
Yatedam Srijate Vishvam.
Durvibhavyam Adhishvarahi.
Durvibhavyam Adishvarai.
Sami.
Bhuya eva vivitsami. Mamaya.
Yatedam Shrujate Vishvam.
Yatedam Srijate Vishvam.
Durvibhavyam
Durvibhavyam Adishvarai.
Bhuya eva vivitsami.
Bhuya eva vivitsami.
Bhagavan Atmamayaya.
Bhagavan Atmamaya.
Yatedam Shrujate Vishvam.
Yatedam Srijate Vishvam.
Durvibhavyam Adhishvarahi.
Adishvarai. Word for word. Booyah. Again. Eva. Also. Vivitsami. I wish to learn. Bhagavan. The personality of Godhead. Atma. Personal. Maya. By the energies. Yata. As. Idam. This phenomenal world. Srijate. Does create. Vishvam. Universe. Durvibhavyam. Inconceivable. Adishvarahi. By the great demigods. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by His personal energies, creates this phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. Says Maharaj Parikshit, speaking, asking, purport. In every inquisitive mind, the important question of the creation of the phenomenal world arises, and therefore, for a personality like Maharaj Parikshit, who was to know all the activities of the Lord from his spiritual master, such an inquiry is not uncommon. For every unknown thing, we have to learn and inquire from a learned personality. The question of creation is also one of such inquiries, to be made to the right person. The spiritual master, therefore, must be one who is Sarvagya, as stated herein before, in connection with Shukadev Goswami. Thus, all inquiries on God, which are unknown to the disciple, may be made from the qualified spiritual master. And here the practical example is set by Maharaj Parikshit. It was, however, already known to Maharaj Parikshit that everything we see is born out of the energy of the Lord, as we have all learned in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmad Asyataha. So Maharaj Parikshit wanted to know the process of creation. The origin of creation was known to him, otherwise he would not have inquired how the personality of Godhead, by his different energies, created this phenomenal world. The common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator and is not created automatically. We have no experience in the practical world that a thing is created automatically. Foolish people say that the creative energy is independent and acts automatically, as electrical energy works. But the intelligent man knows that even the electrical energy is generated by an expert engineer in a localized powerhouse, and thus the energy is distributed everywhere under the resident engineer's supervision. The Lord's supervision in connection with creation is mentioned even in the Bhagavad Gita 9:10, and it is clearly said that there that material energy is a manifestation of one of many such energies of the Supreme. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shriyate. An inexperienced boy may be struck with wonder by seeing the impersonal actions of electronics or many other wonderful things conducted by electrical energy. But an experienced man knows that behind the action is a living man who creates such energy. Similarly, the so-called scholars and philosophers of the world, by mental speculation, present so many utopian theories about the impersonal creation of the universe. But an intelligent devotee of the Lord, by studying the Bhagavad Gita, can know that behind the creation is the hand of the Supreme Lord. Just as in the generating electrical powerhouse, there is the resident engineer. The research scholar finds out the cause and the effect of everything, but research scholars such as great as Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and many other demigods are sometimes bewildered by seeing the wonderful creative energy of the Lord. So what to speak of the tiny, mundane scholars dealing in petty things? As there are differences in the living conditions of different planets of the universe, and as one planet is superior to others, the brains of the living entities in those receptive planets are also of different categorical values. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can compare the long duration of life of the inhabitants of Brahma's planet, which is inconceivable to the inhabitants of this planet Earth, to the categorical value of the brain of Brahmaji, also inconceivable to any great scientist of this planet. And with such high brain power, even Brahmaji has described in his great Sanghita, Brahma Sanghita 5.1 as follows: Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is a supreme because none can excel him. He is a supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. Brahmaji admits Lord Krishna to be the supreme cause of all causes, but persons with tiny brains within this petty planet Earth think of the Lord as one of them. Thus, when the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that he, Lord Krishna, is all in all, the speculative philosophers and the mundane wranglers deride him, and the Lord regretfully says, Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanamashritam param bhavam ajanato mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Bhagavad Gita 9.11. Brahma and Shiva, and what to speak of other demigods, are bhutas, or powerful created demigods, who manage universal affairs, much like ministers appointed by a king. The ministers may be Ishvaras, or controllers, but the Supreme Lord is Maheshvara, or the creator of the controllers. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge do not know this, and therefore they have the audacity to deride him because he comes before us by his causeless mercy occasionally as a human being. The Lord is not like a human being. He is Sachid Ananda Vigraha, or the absolute personality of God, and there is no difference between his body and his soul. He is both the power and the powerful. Maharaj Parikshit did not ask his spiritual master Shukadeva Goswami to narrate Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He wanted to hear first about the creation of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami did not say that the king should hear about the direct transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The time was very short, and naturally Shukadeva Goswami could have gone directly to the 10th canto to make a shortcut of the whole thing, as generally done by the professional reciters. But neither the king nor the great speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam jumped up like the organizers of Bhagavatam. Both of them proceeded systematically so that both future readers and hearers might take lessons from the example of the procedure of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are in control of the external energy of the Lord, or in other words, those who are in the material world, must first of all know how the external energy of the Lord is working under the direction of the Supreme Personality. And afterwards, one may try to enter into the activities of his internal energy. The mundaners are mostly worshippers of Durga Devi, the external energy of Krishna, but they do not know that Durga Devi is but the shadow energy of the Lord. Behind her astonishing display of material workings is the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10. The Brahma Samhita affirms that Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, and without his sanction, the powerful Durga Shakti cannot move even a blade of grass. Therefore, the neophyte devotee, instead of jumping at once to the platform of transcendental pastimes presented by the internal energy of the Lord, may know how great the Supreme Lord is by inquiring about the process of his creative energy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, descriptions of the creative energy and the Lord's hand in it are explained. And the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has warned the neophyte devotees to be seriously on guard against the pitfall of neglecting knowledge about Krishna in regard to how great he is. Only when one knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders of men will mistake Lord Krishna for one of the many demigods, or a historical personality, or a myth only. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan, or even at Dwarka, are relishable for persons who have already qualified themselves in advanced spiritual techniques. And the common man may be able to attain to such a plane by the gradual process of service and inquiries, as we shall see in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Translation: I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. So no one can fully understand just how the Lord's energies are working. It's a complete mystery. But we can understand from what Krishna reveals and what his devotees reveal about these energies, but ultimately Krishna's plan or Krishna's will is quite mysterious. And so these energies that he has that facilitates this material world is inconceivable. It's amazing, right? There's so many. You have the Purusha avatars, which are Kar Mahavishnu, Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, Kshiradakashaya Vishnu, who are having some function to maintain the material worlds. And they're all actually Vishnu Tattva, or expansions of Krishna. But they're doing a specific task. They're doing a specific task for him. But he's aloof from these activities as well. Krishna himself is aloof. He's just Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. He's just enjoying his supreme loving pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan. But he's also simultaneously present in every atom. So it's very, very mysterious. So it's explained that when we want to study the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is we're wanting to study the absolute truth, we're supposed to gradually move through the Bhagavatam in general from the first canto all the way up to the 10th canto. Because from the first 10 cantos, then we can understand Krishna's position in relation to this material world, in relation to the great sages and demigods and devotees, and how Krishna expands himself in various ways. And we hear about all the different incarnations of Krishna. So there's so much information to be known about how great God is here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And even Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us a little synopsis of his greatness, right? In the 10th chapter with the opulence of the absolute. We get some different qualities or some representations of Krishna's qualities. But even himself says at the end of that chapter, Yad Yad Vibhutimat Sattvam Srimad Urjitam Eva Va Tat Tat Eva Tatam Mamatain Cho Samsambhavam, that whatever you see in this world is just a little spark of my splendor, whatever greatness, glorious, beautiful things, simply just a little spark. When you see a fire and some sparks come off of it, it just is something insignificant. It just disappears in a matter of seconds, the spark, when it leaves the fire. So it's just this little spark, Krishna's splendor. Anything beautiful, opulent, glorious in his creation. And Krishna is the big fire, the blazing fire. So we get some indication of Krishna's greatness. There's so many literatures which explain Krishna's greatness. We have the Bhagavatam, we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, we have the different writings of the acharyas, and then we have biographies of devotees, because where there is the pure devotee of the Lord, there is also simultaneously Krishna. So there's so much wealth of knowledge to know how great God is, and when we hear such knowledge, then our faith becomes more strong. We become more convinced that he is worth worshiping. He's worth giving our attention. He's worth giving our focus, our prayer, our worship, our time. So that's what Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport, that without knowing how great he is, one cannot actually have this unflinching faith in him and devotion. So Srila Prabhupada would explain like that religions today say God is great, God is great. Yes, that's true, he's great, but where is the wealth of knowledge explaining how great he is? So when you have that, then God becomes very much real and tangible for you when you understand how great he is. So Krishna is mysterious, his greatness, because when he comes in this material world, he does things which are seemingly immoral. And so it can be difficult to understand, how is this possible that God is immoral? Right? God must be the most moral. So when one doesn't have sufficient knowledge about how great Krishna is, and understanding the different relationships he has with devotees and the underlying principle of his pastimes, then one can have so many misconceptions and deride Krishna. Oh, he's just some womanizer, or he's just, some naughty kid, or he's just a historical personality or whatever. But the devotees know that even in these pastimes which are seemingly immoral, the underlying principle is loving, selfless, loving devotion to Krishna. The highest expression of selfless love is displayed in the pastimes of the Lord. So it takes some time to get that realization. And even if one has that realization, they also have to be careful, because we're very much conditioned by the material world. And we could also misunderstand the pastimes of Krishna, especially with his devotee, with the gopis, Srimati Radharani. So we're supposed to be a little careful about how we interact with those pastimes. But they're there for us. They're definitely there for us to relish. So yeah, there's this common question, why does Srila Prabhupada want the Krishna book published so bad, even though there wasn't all these other literatures like the Srimad Bhagavatam available? And I'm not even sure Bhagavad Gita was available at that time, at least the one we have now. So we can see within Krishna book, there's so much philosophy, right? It's not just the pastimes, but Prabhupada put in a lot of purports of the pastimes within the summary of Krishna, of the 10th canto. So he did his due diligence to make sure that if that is the first book someone reads, they can understand the philosophy as well. That he wanted to make sure that got out there, that it got out there that Krishna is a Supreme Personality Godhead, and these are his pastimes. So he didn't know how much time he had on this planet, so he wanted to make sure that Krishna was given directly. So Srila Prabhupada also mentions here that it is a natural question, it's natural for someone to inquire about the creation. It's natural for, in every inquisitive mind, the important question of creation of the phenomenal world arises. Yeah, it's like the most basic question, right? Where did I come from? What is this world? How is this world? How was this world created? And instinctually, throughout all cultures, there's always some concept of a higher power, right? So it's the most natural for the human being to have faith in some creator of some sort. But we have to inquire from someone who's actually learned in this understanding. Just like Prabhupada says, for every unknown thing, we have to learn and inquire from someone who's learned. So some people think that in spiritual life, we can figure it out, right? In spiritual life, we can figure it out on our own. But in material life, they show how much they're dependent on other people's knowledge to understand something. Just like some of these people may go through school and then they don't know how to perform a lab experiment in their chemistry class. So then they have some knowledge that's been given, some procedures. They have their teacher that they get guidance from, and then they learn how to do it. And then they get a good grade. But when it comes to spiritual life, no, I can figure it out on my own. I got my own personal relationship with God, and that's enough. It's just ignorance, mode of ignorance. But when one has that humility to approach someone who actually is learned in spiritual life, then they can learn so much. And so it is stressed to learn from the parampara system, which Krishna himself, that's his system. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsi yogru sakalena himata yoganashta parantapa. But he set up this supreme science, this system, this specific succession. So therefore, it is Krishna's system. And if we try to learn about Krishna from his own system of how he wants his knowledge passed down, then we can learn so much about Krishna. So it's a long purport. There's many points. I got to just a few things. We have a few minutes left. So if there's any comments or questions, then we can take some now. Yes, Jagannath?
My question is, why do we judge Bhagavan by the six opulences? This kind of seems material. If you could help me destroy this doubt, I'd really
Why do we
appreciate it.
what?
Why do we judge Bhagavan by the six opulences? These kind of seem material. you know, fame, strength, wealth, beauty, seem material. Why wouldn't we judge him solely on renunciation and, you know what I mean?
You're saying that it's a criteria for being God.
Yeah.
So why are we using these as a criteria for who's the supreme?
Yeah.
They seem material.
Right.
Well, it's opulence. You know, any opulence could seem material, right? So wealth could seem material, but actually, or beauty, but these are actually in the real states, like in the spiritual world, there's so much opulence and variety of opulences. So it's not that wealth is just material. You know, it can be material, but or beauty can be material, but these are things in which opulences which are just in existence. And then when we see that Krishna has full in all these opulences, then, or when we understand that God is full in all 6 of these, it's very apparent that he's the supreme, because nobody else could be full in all of these opulences. So beauty is knowledge, renunciation. These are also spiritual qualities. There's omniscient knowledge. Krishna is omniscient, omnipotent, all powerful. So these are just qualities that one should have if they're considered to be a supreme being. Right, so any qualities there are, it's a reflection of the qualities that are there in Krishna. But in pure state, Krishna has all these qualities in a pure state. Just like anger, right? There's anger. You can say, well, this material consciousness, and only materially conditioned people get angry. But we see Krishna gets angry also. But his anger is Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. It's full of bliss. So there's some thoughts about that idea. Anybody else have any further point on that? Yes, Krishnendu?
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to make a comment, if that's okay. This point that you made, that touching on Prabhupada's point, how, naturally inquiring about our source, our creation, we could think, okay, where did I come from? And we think, oh, my parents, but where did they come from? Where did they come from? And we can go all the way back. And then, because people don't believe in God or accept God, then, it ends up with some speculation, or if they say everything came from nothing, or it's like evolution from some kind of microbe, or, just so many speculations. But if we just hear from the Bhagavatam, it makes it so clear. Like it makes it really clear, sanely clear, to the point where, you hear other people talk and you're just like, you want to ask them, like, do you really even believe what you're saying right now?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any sense. So Prabhupada was talking about that, how people say stuff comes from nothing or this or that, and it's all complete absurdity. But most of us seemingly, me, don't have that intelligence to like think that far on my own. But by coming in contact with those who have thought that way, then, you could start thinking about it also.
Hmm. That's a good point. Sometimes you meet people and you share some further thought on it and they're like, I've never thought about that before. It's like, yeah, makes more sense, right? It's illumination with knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.